Welcome back to the Two Blues podcast. We had to do it, man. It is Joao Felix day. The squad numbers haven't all been confirmed, but there has been a big couple of moves in that squad. No Ben Chilwell, no Raheem Sterling, no Trevor Chalobah. Joao Felix takes Chalobah's number 14. Pedro Neto takes Raheem Sterling's number 7. It looks like neither of those players, along with Ben Chilwell, are not a part of Enzo Maresca's squad plans this year. Before we get into the whole thing, make sure to like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. But Chelsea have had a superb day for business. I make it over £100 million accrued or thereabouts. 42 million from Gallagher, 30 million obligation if Ipswich stay up to buy Broja, and then 14.7 million over the course of a season for Bashir Humphreys. Some more excellent business for Chelsea, and even better, we've managed to get Joao Felix through the door for a similar price at what we were looking to pay for Samu Umora-Dion. And I am over the moon that we have got a quality player like Joao Felix instead of an unproven player like Umora-Dion in return for Conor Gallagher. Because let's be honest, work rate aside, there is not a single thing Conor Gallagher does better than Joao Felix. Technically speaking, from a footballing standpoint, the guy is head and shoulders above Conor Gallagher. And I don't see him playing the same position. Obviously, we have kind of Romeo Lavia, Casadei, Andre Santos, Hugo Chukwu to kind of fulfill that more central midfield role. But Joao Felix is a brilliant, fluid, creative, attacking forward. I wouldn't quite call him an attacking midfielder or creative midfielder. I'd say he's still a forward. He still fits in that front three, front four, whether it's a number 10, whether it's a number 8 operating off the side, whatever formation Maresca decides to use and whatever position he decides to play Joao Felix in, I can see him fitting into this squad like a glove. Like a glove! He's fluid. His ability is off the charts. He was the best part of the season, Potter-Lampard season. Him and Enzo Fernandez, the football they play, the different dynamic that Joao Felix gives us in terms of the ability to take it on the half turn, the quick feet, the ability to turn it around the corner. Very similar to Nkunku in terms of his footwork, his quality, his ability on the ball. But I just think we now have 4 or 5 players in Palmer, Nkunku, Felix, Neto that are able to find those half spaces, that are able to operate in incredibly tight areas. And that has been a big issue for Chelsea for a long, long time, not just in the wings, but in general in the final third. A lot of the time when teams come to Stamford Bridge, they play a low block, and it is the most difficult thing for Chelsea to break down. We cannot do it. We haven't been able to do it for years. We struggle monumentally against the lower sides that come to Stamford Bridge and put out a low block. But now we are starting to see, last season with Cole Palmer, we were starting to see we had one player in that team that was able to pick that lock. We was able to thread that needle through the defense and play that $1 million ball that nobody else in the Chelsea squad was able to. I don't doubt that Enzo Fernandez has the quality to, but he's better operating and better played in a deeper role. His distribution should be looking forward, should be more progressive, getting attacks started. In and around the box, you need players with tricky feet. Players like Carly Chukwuemeka, who have excellent footwork, excellent ability. His technical ability, his close control in tight quarters is superb. And I think that is what last season we were far too reliant on Cole Palmer for. And obviously it didn't help that we had massive, injury concerns to players like Nkunku, who no doubt in his quality. No Chelsea fan is going to sit here and say Nkunku is not a quality player, isn't a starter when he's fit and ready. But last season he wasn't available, and we were all too often 100% reliant on Cole Palmer. But now we're seeing with Felix, Nkunku and Neto, there are 3 additions to that front 4 that have abilities that we didn't have before. Raheem Sterling, I'd argue that he is not as good in close quarters in terms of close control than Pedro Neto, even Madueke. I think Sterling's a good, kick it and run kind of player, like Mykhailo Mudryk, who I don't think is fantastic in tight spaces. I think give him room, give him space, give him a high line to play against. Fantastic, brilliant player. Raheem Sterling, I don't want to put dirt on his name because he's shown us time and time again that he is able to do it and has been able to do it for an extended period of time, but hasn't done it at Chelsea, hasn't been the guy. Playing at Man City and playing at Chelsea are 2 very, very different things. And to go from that squad where you can look like a Kovacic, while I think Kovacic's quality, he's not Rodri's level, but he looks interchangeable in that City side. You can put a player in there, Oscar Bob, Rico Lewis. You can make a player with potential look phenomenal. How Phil Foden won the Player of the Year, I do not know. He looks better than he is in that City side because of the quality around him. And I do feel like playing with better quality and playing against better quality players brings up that quality. It brings out a more competitive edge in you. And I do feel like this is a good problem to have with Chelsea now, in that we've got players that want to play for the team. Not only are they on long-term contracts and fairly low wages, it is more about the incentives and going out and performing and putting the bonuses on that. We're cutting the fat excellently in terms of those high wage earners. I make it, I think I recounted it the other day, but Kepa, Lukaku, Sarr, Chilwell, Chalobah, Sterling, that's over £1 million a week in wages. And we've cut it extremely well while we're getting rid of academy graduates. I say getting rid while we're trimming the academy graduates, getting great permanent moves with sell-on clauses, obligation to return, or we get first refusal on players like Bashir Humphreys. 14.7 million. Unbelievable fee for Bashir Humphreys. It might be 2.7 mil loan fee, obligation to buy for 12 mil. But if that comes through and Chelsea still have first refusal to get him back, I think Bashir Humphreys, that again, top move. Brilliant move for his development, his progression. A championship loan. He already showed us that he could do it last year with Swansea. Had a great season with Swansea, and I think he'll do very well with Burnley this year. But I also think it's a great move for Chelsea, thinking about the future and thinking about, look, we have to manage this. And I know you don't want to upset the core of the fan base that is going to, Cobham graduate, another academy graduate gone. We're just selling our young boys. We're selling our graduates. The way that we're making money back, and if you want Chelsea to sign world-class players, if you want Chelsea to be able to sign the top players, we're going to need to do a little bit of mitigation. Something's going to have to give. And with the amount and with the number of quality youngsters coming through Chelsea, it's not like, and I know it's everybody's worst thing when we go back in for a player that we sold a couple of years ago, but it's not like we couldn't afford to stump up 30, 40 mil for Bashir in a couple of years. But the chances of him reaching the level that we need him to reach, let's be honest, very, very slim. So Chelsea have taken all of the risk out of this deal by getting a little bit of money in the short term, putting him elsewhere, but also giving ourselves first refusal or an option to take him back. I personally think, and I am not for the owners, and this will probably be a little bit hypocritical, I think the way that the owners are doing business this summer is fantastic. 10 out of 10, if not 11 out of 10. The players they've identified as players that can be cut, the way that we are finally, finding solutions to situations like Kepa, Lukaku, Malang Sarr. We should have cancelled his contract 2 years ago. Why have we been paying his salary all this time? And I am glad that we are making the big decisions. Then, and watching Enzo Maresca's press conference earlier, the guy has a clear idea of what he is doing and he takes no shit. And I really, really like that. The more I see of Enzo Maresca in the press, the more I hear from him, the more I like it. Somebody said, how did you come to that decision? How did you come to the conclusion, given that Raheem Sterling had played a huge part of your preseason? How did you come to the conclusion on Friday that he wasn't a part of the squad? And Enzo Maresca said, who played on the wing first game against Wrexham? The journalist had no idea. And Enzo Maresca said, Tyreek George. Who played on the wing on the second game? And the journalist had no idea. And the answer was Mykhailo Mudryk. And then Maresca said, who did I play on the third game? It was Raheem Sterling. It's not that I was just playing I just wanted to see all of our wingers. It wasn't a case of I was using him in the whole preseason. He didn't start. People are asking questions and pushing agendas when they don't know the facts. And the fact that people are asking and questioning Maresca's decisions when they don't even know what his decisions have been for the past month is one of the main problems, not with the Chelsea fan base, but with the media and the PR as a whole. The amount of negativity we've seen recently in not even just the last week, in the last month of Chelsea's squad, the squad size, the amount of we've got. Enzo Maresca came out today and clarified, I'm not working with 45 players. I'm working with 21. There are 20 players I do not see. There are 20 players training away from us that are not in my plans. That is how you run a football club, with decisive action. He's come in and stamped his authority immediately, and obviously it helps that he is just a mouthpiece for the owners, and realistically it's probably what their decisions, and he is just kind of relaying that information. But the way that he is laying down the law, both in this squad and in press conferences, I'm very, very happy at this stage and how this squad looks at the moment. I mean, I think we could do, and I have been screaming for the last 2 years for a little bit more experience. So I'm not going to change my mind on that. I'm not going to say that this young team will succeed without any experience or without any additions, bearing in mind that we have said we are cutting Chilwell, we are cutting Kepa. I think the squad that started against Man City was the youngest Chelsea squad, or the youngest squad that started in a long, long time in the Premier League. And you can see the clear direction that this Chelsea side are going. And, big decisions like coming out today and taking the number 7 off Raheem Sterling and giving it to Pedro Neto, that is a big decision. And I think it adds a little bit more context to the statement that Sterling's team made, because obviously this has been in the works for a while. This is not something that was decided at the weekend, and they have tried to spin it differently. He is very clearly, and I kind of thought early on in the preseason that it was quite obvious that Maresca was going to start phasing out these players. The fact that Chilwell didn't start, I think he may have started one game, but didn't really contribute to one significant performance or game in preseason. You can kind of see the hallmarks of a little overhaul were there, and I'm a fan of it. I've kind of said for a long time that we've been a club in transition for 2-3 years now, but we've never completed the overhaul. We've never just gone, you know what? Let's just tear the carpet up. We virtually did, but there were just remnants. There were, Romelu Lukaku, Kepa, high wage earners, either sitting on the bench, sulking, or looking for loan moves. We're trying to get rid of them. And we've kind of got to a point where I think Todd Boehly said, look, let's cut our losses. And, I did the maths the other day on the Sterling thing. He's earning 15 million a year. If we let him sit on the bench, or if we don't find a move for him, if we don't cut him definitively out this squad and say, this player's for sale, please send in your bids, we're going to be paying him another 15 mil next season. And then the season after that, you're going to have to get 15 more on the transfer fee to recoup that money. I do feel like a lot of the decisions that have been made this summer stink of, fuck it, I've had enough. I'm not going through this for another 6 months. I'm not going through this for another year. And fair play to them. Again, I'm not behind the owners 100%. I like the way they've been doing business this summer. I still think the club as a whole, incredibly mismanaged. The the lack of communication, or the gap in communication from ownership and the fans is huge. I don't think it's ever been bigger between Chelsea, not least in my lifetime. In the last 26 years I've been on this earth, I've never seen a disconnect like this from the club and the fans. However, I think if you read between the lines, look beyond the headline, look beyond these reports of Chelsea having 45 players and, 3. This is the one that gets me as well. Chelsea having spent 1.3 billion under Todd Boehly, and that being more than the majority of clubs in their entire history. How much money have we made back under Todd Boehly? Because the other week it was 1.57 billion. And we've just made another 100 million today. So Todd Boehly he knows what he's doing. And these headline grabbers, Chelsea has spent 3.7 billion. Yeah, but we've made 2.8 billion back. So we haven't got the net spend of Man United. You look at the selling. Chelsea have been in the top sales, or the top 3 sales windows 3 times in 3 out of 10. We're in the top 10. Man United aren't in there once. Arsenal aren't in there. That's not surprising. Man United not being in the top 10 sales or revenue generated in a window is criminal. The amount of money they spend. Why is Jamie Carragher, a Liverpool fan who have a long-standing rivalry with Man United, why is he not going after them and their finances when they've just bought Mazraoui, Euro and De Ligt on top of Maguire, Martinez, Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, all of these decisions, and Chelsea are getting scrutinised. I'm so glad that Enzo Maresca's come out in the press and quashed a lot of these and said, 21 players. These players aren't a part of my plan. He's very well media trained. I'll give him that. But he's doing a lot to connect the fans and the owners. And I see that. I see it working. I think the Joao Felix move, in part, is PR. I think it's in part to get the fans back on board, because they know we loved him. And they know he loved the club. And that's one thing that we've been calling for time and time again. Something that you can't recreate, something you can't fabricate, is a passion for the club, is the want to bleed blue, is the want to play for the badge. And very few players at parts last season had it. Conor Gallagher was the only one. And if you're not an academy player, an academy graduate, it's very hard to replicate that. Very hard to like I said, fabricate that feeling. But Joao Felix, for some reason, has a ridiculous affinity to Chelsea Football Club. And he has a love for the club, an unconditional love that we have repaid and will repay as fans. When he was part of that Potter Lampard squad, like I said earlier in the video, he was my favourite thing about this Chelsea team. He was the best part. He was the only part that was enjoyable to watch. Because 9 times out of 10, it was slow, it was defunct, it was not progressive passing. Then the ball went into Felix, and bang, there was a half turn. Bang, there was a through ball. Bang, there was a shot. There was a little bit of excitement, a little bit of urgency, a little bit of intent. And that, I think, in large part, is what this Chelsea squad need, but just with a bit more quality. We've seen Jackson. Jackson has no bounds of enthusiasm, no lack of enthusiasm, no lack of want, no lack of try hard. It's his ability that lets him down at times. And I feel like a player like Joao Felix, who is so utilitarian in that he can play off the left, off the right, in the 8, in the 9, in the 10. He can play as a second striker. He can play as a false 9. He can play on the wing. I love a player that can play in 2-3 positions. That is one of the reasons why I was so adamant that Michael Elise would be a brilliant signing. Because I think while he was brilliant and while he, like Palmer, main option off the right, he can play in the 10. He can play in the holes. He can play in the half spaces. I really, really like this fluid front line that we are building. I have always been a stickler for a strong spine. I think your goalkeeper, your 2 centre halves and your centre midfield should never change. The player that patrols, so, your Kante, your Makaleli, your Sen, your Mikel, whoever it is, in this case, probably Caicedo, or, Lavia at the moment. Lavia, 2 centre halves, whether that's Fofana and Colwell, whatever it is. Jorgensen would ideally be my keeper. That core, this middle of the pitch should not change. It should be the same every time. Obviously, fullbacks in an ideal world would stay the same as well. But then the wings, they're where you can rotate. They're where you've got a little bit of freedom. If you've got 4 or 5 creative players like Chelsea, and this is a good position to be in because we've now got great options off the bench as well. And I don't see Joao Felix as a starter in this team. I see him as a bench option and or a cut player. Because I do think front 3, like I've maintained, Palmer and Nkunku, Neto. Whether Jackson plays in the 9 and Nkunku drops a little bit deeper, whether Osimhen comes in or a striker comes in, there's a big chance Chelsea could still go out and get a striker. And I'd like you to let me know in the comments, do you think this is the end of Chelsea's business? Do you think we should wash our hands now and say no more incomings? Or do you think we still need to go out? I mean, like I said, I've been a stickler for experience. And I do think while I'm happy and content with Nkunku and Jackson in the 9, definitely now with Felix, I wouldn't say no to an Osimhen. We saw last week, we still need a striker with striker's instinct. We still need an out-and-out goal scorer. I'm hesitant with Osimhen because realistically, it would be a massive fee, unproven in the Premier League. We have got players like Nkunku who I am expecting or hoping will bag 20 goals this year. And Jackson as well. I'm hoping Jackson will improve on his 17 last season and hit 20 this year. But I'm intrigued to see where Chelsea go from here. Obviously, the main priority is trimming the fat, is getting Lukaku to Napoli, is getting Kepa out, is getting Sterling out, is getting Chilwell and Chalobah off the books. However, I don't think this is the end of Chelsea's business. I can still see us going in for a striker and maybe another defender. I don't think Maresca is 100% happy with the back line he has at the moment. And while Fofana and Colwell is as a nice, future prospect kind of centre-back pairing about it, have we seen enough from either of them to kind of say they've earned their place? I don't know. Neither of them is undroppable at the moment. And if an experienced centre-back, akin to Mats Hummels came up, I wouldn't say no. Jump into comments real quick. Coach's Corner, appreciate you joining, Hanno. You're saying very good. Gabriel as well, definitely a better finisher than Sterling and Mudryk. Yeah, he's a fantastic finisher, Joao Felix. That's one of the main things that I was impressed with, his instinctive finishes. He didn't get the game time. He scored 4 in 16 and he was off the bench the majority of those times. He did not get the game time under Lampard because at that point we were down and out. As soon as Potter went, Lampard's job was to start preparing the squad for next season. Felix was only on loan. He was never going to stay. And then it was Pochettino that chucked him out. The Chelsea fans weren't happy about it. We loved him collectively. I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't know many people who didn't love Joao Felix. Even if they didn't rate him particularly highly, we had unconditional love for Joao Felix as a fan base. Hanno reckons we will bring in Osimhen. You reckon, I mean, any other striker suggestions? Because obviously Tony's still available. I don't think that's the best option. Gyökeres, again, I'd be hesitant because I think it's a big fee for a player who wasn't fun, didn't blow me away at Coventry. Let's just leave it at that. And I know he has put in big numbers in at Sporting, but you know, I would go for Osimhen over Gyökeres at this point. I think it depends. You know, we've seen from Fab, from journalists, they don't want to loan him. He doesn't want to lower his wage demands. That's going to be the big sticking point, given that our whole ethos now is low wages, performance and bonus incentive. We have great connections, great Nigerian connections, great African connections. Obviously, Didier Drogba and Mikel both personally know Osimhen and are reportedly both trying to convince him to come to Chelsea. I think at the moment, I think it's a waiting game. I think it's us kind of waiting out Napoli because they've said, you know, they expect him to leave this summer. I think PSG off the table. They've spent too much this year. I think it's going to be a case of if PSG offload 2-3 players, they'll take him. If Chelsea are the only club in for him, they will try and lowball it, and they will play on the fact that Osimhen does not want to go. They do not want him to just sit on the, does not want to play for them. They don't want him to sit on the bench. And I think Chelsea will try and run it down. I do see that one running down right to the wire and potentially being a deadline day saga, which will be fun. Hopefully we will be able to do an extended live this year on deadline day. I think I only did kind of 1-2 hours last year. So you know what? Let's see if we can get like a 4-5 hour deadline day stream going this year. Hanno, if Disasi goes, yeah, I've seen rumours of Disasi being linked to a couple of clubs, Newcastle, one of them. I think he should still get a try. Obviously, he's just come back from knee surgery. I don't think we've even seen him under Maresca yet. So I think, you know, give him a chance first. I don't think he's a bad player. And if we're getting rid of Chalobah, I think it should be one of the two in terms of Chalobah and Disasi. He's surely he's the most experienced player in the squad now. So I mean, I would keep Disasi if I could. Just seen your video on Felix. I'm Everton fan. Very good business. I tell you what, great username there. Buying scratch cards till I win the lottery. The day I see I've won the lottery, I will. Congratulations, bro. I'm invested now. You've got me. One comment and I'm invested. I'm going to be checking every single day to see when you win the lottery. Good luck, fella. Good luck. If I've ever wanted anybody to win the lottery, you, fella. Yeah, I didn't watch him much at Barcelona, I'll be honest. And I got one Barcelona friend who didn't really rate him. But I don't need to see anything. I don't need to hear anything from Felix. He passed the eye test. That is it for me. The eye test is so crucial for me. Robert Sanchez failed. Petrovic passed. 12 months ago, 12 months later, I'm maintaining my position. Joao Felix passed the eye test 3 seasons ago. I'm still maintaining my position. He could have gone barren for 4 years. He could have not scored a single goal. Vibes FC are back. We are back. Pedro Neto in there, Joao Felix. He knows a few of them. Cucurella, obviously, he likes. I think this is good vibes. I think he is the right kind of player. Technical, adds a little bit of flair. You know, we've got great players, but not refined in the final third. And I think he is still a little bit raw, but I think he's far more refined than Mudryk Madueke. I think he's a great buy. Hanno said he'd go Tony, but don't think it's happening. Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to do a couple of deals in silence, like the Pedro Neto deal. That was probably the most exciting deal that we've done this summer. The biggest hit of dopamine for me, definitely, for sure. But I don't know about Tony. I feel like he's kind of played himself out of a move. I feel like he thought he would be gone last year, maybe. And I don't know. I feel like Saudi's the only one that's going to be able to stump up what they want for him in terms of wages and fee. I honestly don't think going out and spending 50 mil on him, you know, I would have 2 seasons ago, no doubt. But I think now it's a little bit more of a risk. And given the amount that we've spent and given the squad players that we have, you know, it's a risk that I personally wouldn't want to take. Yeah, the media. Yeah, we kind of mentioned it earlier in that the media are. You've got to look past the headlines because, like Enzo Maresca said in his press conference today, everyone's saying we got 45 players. I train with 21. Where are these other 24 players? I train every day with 21 players. That is my squad. Where are these 45 that you're saying? Are you watching our training sessions? Because they're not there. And similarly with the money, it's all about the 1.7 billion we spent, the money that we spent on the Todd Boehly that no one else has spent. Look at the money we've recouped. No club in the world, not just England, no club in the world has recouped as much in transfer revenue as Chelsea in the 21st century. No club has recouped as much as Chelsea since Todd Boehly joined. I think we've recouped over 1 billion. We've spent over 1 billion, but we've also recouped 1 billion. The price, the business they are doing is nuts. And yeah, someone said here, investments. I think some of the investments, wrong. Omari Kellyman, I'll come out and say it now. Omari Kellyman, 19 mil, wrong. Shouldn't have gone for it. Mark Gui, 6 mil, fantastic investment. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, 30 odd mil, unnecessary. Mike Penders, a little bit unnecessary with Gabriel Slanina. But Aaron Anselmino, fantastic investment. 20 mil for a top young player. Esteval Willian, Kendry Paez. There have been some brilliant investments. There have been some misses, but, well, I say there have been some misses. Some players that I think are misses, but the best thing about it is we won't know if they're misses for another 4 years. We won't know if they're hits or misses until they turn 22, which for a lot of these players is 5-6 years away. And I think we will be in a great situation. Well, yeah, touch wood. We will be in a great situation in a couple of years if these players develop how we expect and hope them to develop, and if the transfers continue in the way that we are operating. If the players that we've signed continue to develop, we're going to be making money hand over fist. We are going to be making so much money, Todd Boehly will not know what to do with himself, and the Chelsea fans will be singing his praises. I guarantee you, if this continues. Very smart, very strategic business, but you have to look at some of these transfers and say we've got to mitigate that risk. I think Dewsbury Hall was an unnecessary deal. I think Kellyman, again, unnecessary figure. A lot of these fees, a little bit more than I would have liked. And when you have the quantity of players that we have, a little bit unnecessary, to be making 1.7 mil for argument's sake on Diego Moreira. Doesn't really, we didn't really need to do that. We could have just left him at Benfica or let someone else have him. 1.7 million to Todd Boehly isn't enough to, potentially damage a player's progression. But I do see the plan. And while I've always said, look, it's going to be a 3 to 5 year plan, it's a 5 to 10 year plan. Maresca even said it himself. That's what the owners want. They've got a 10-year plan. They want to be dominating Europe in 5-10 years. And while Chelsea fans can get frustrated and say, look at the now, focus on the now, we're in the mud, help us. I don't want to think about 5 years. I want to think about now. It's okay. We will prevail. We will come through. That haven't started the scratch cards. You started the account, but didn't start the scratch. I'm invested anyway, bro. Don't worry. I'm invested anyway. If we keep Disasi, what was the point of Tosin? I think, he was never going to replace Thiago Silva, but I think that's what it was in the sense of an experienced player. But in keeping with Todd Boehly and Igbali and Clear Lake's policies, he's at the bottom. He's the youngest experienced player that we could get, or the oldest experienced player that we could get while still staying within our framework or transfer policy. I personally think we were hoping for him to have a better impact immediately. I think in pre-season he was a little bit disappointing for me. And I think maybe Maresca feels the same, which is why he's gone with Fofana and Colwill against Man City. I hope we see Tosin tomorrow night against Servette, which I will be there for. Again, second Chelsea game of the year. Come on, boys. We're going to the games this year, man. Come on. It was techie last year. Logistically speaking, it was techie, and financially speaking, but we back up this year, man. Come on. We're employed this year. It's all good. Anyone going to the game tomorrow? Shout, man. I'm going to be there with Kieran. So, talk to us. Link up. But yeah, I want to see Tosin start tomorrow. I want to see Jorgensen start tomorrow. I want to see Neto start tomorrow. I don't think Felix will be part of the squad. I think it's probably too late. But I want to see a lot. I want to see a few changes from Sunday tomorrow. I don't know much about Servette. You would think on paper it's a good opportunity for us to do a little bit of rotation, see who plays where, who can kind of build a couple of relationships. I think Jackson needs to play because he needs to get his minutes up and his match fitness. But yeah, Coach, we'll finish. I will answer the other four or five comments, but we'll leave you with this question because we're approaching half an hour. Will Felix work at Chelsea? Will Joao Felix be a good transfer? I personally think yes. I think it was a good buy. I think he's a great option, utilitarian, and when we have the FIFA Club World Cup, the Conference League, I think he's going to be a very, very good player and a big part to play in this Chelsea side, particularly further down the line later in the year. You know, when inevitably the injuries start coming. You know, we are not going to stay. We got one injury at the moment. We are not going to stay injury free all season. I don't care if we've got a whole new medical team. We can't go from 20 injuries last season to 0 injuries this season. It just will not happen. Abdi can fuck right off. We're just financial fair play 101, bro. We've got this on lock. Todd Bowley knows exactly what he's doing. And yeah, just doubling back on what I said about Maresca earlier. I like the way he's carried himself in press conferences. I think he's laying down the law well. And like I said, we don't know how much of it is him and how much of it is, him being a mouthpiece for the owners. But at the same time, I'm very happy. I'm liking the direction in which this is going. And I'm glad that he's laying down the law so firmly with a lot of these senior players. I highly doubt, fella, that I'll be up at Goodison Park this season. However, I'm going to try now, mate. I'm definitely going to try. We'll be on the ticket exchange looking for the away tickets, but I'll let you know, man, closer to the time. It will probably be an easy 3 points for you, lot, regardless. So definitely happy to grab a pint if I am in the area. But appreciate everybody joining. Make sure to tune in. We are going to be doing some sort of live match reaction tomorrow. Like I said, I am at the game, so probably be a little bit impromptu. But yeah, whatever you do, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow @2Blues Podcast on the Instagram and the TikTok. And we'll see you all very, very soon.